for all of our old camps. And now he's actively involved with the Spiritual Alignment Wellness Center or Wellness and Wellbeing Center out in California. So he'll be going over just some exercises we can kind of do within our free time, whether it's a gap between classes or just a break at work, to kind of recenter ourselves, just to take care of ourselves with everything going on around us. So
Yeah,
over
and
to you, Mitesh.
I think professionally he's also an executive coach, or he coaches people on personal development and personality development, I believe.
Yes, so thank you for that. It's uh, it's a long journey that we've had with the Parivar here, and um, I know back in, what was it, 2004, when I first took some time in Haridwar to learn about some of these things that we'll go over today. It was an interesting experience, but I first of all, I'm just wanted to welcome all of you again, and thank you for welcoming me. Um, who is ready to call it a year and just kind of move on to 2021? Anyone ready to just kind of move on and move forward? Okay. And so today I want to share just ways that we can still make them. We have 4 months left in this year, and really about 4.5. And oftentimes we let circumstances dictate how we feel inside, how we can um, show up internally. And this is one of those years where circumstances have definitely created a challenge for all of us, myself included. Like, for example, we have 2 yoga centers. We can't do any yoga in there, really. The centers are closed, and excuse me, so we have to do all virtual classes. Zoom is like my best friend now, and we just roll with it. But I want to get just a sense of, in the chat window, what is your biggest, it's a challenge that comes to when you have circumstances that don't go your way. Type in 1 word, 2 words, a sentence. What's one thing that really is your most difficult challenge when it comes to when things don't go your way? I'd just like to hear from you. Overthinking from Dhruv, thank you. Adapting to the change from Charmy. Not being motivated, okay, from Krishna. Acceptance, okay. Accepting things that aren't going my way. Try to problem solve, okay. Past. All right, so there's a bunch of responses. Thank you for is my connection okay? I see that my connection says it's unstable. Just wanted to make sure that we're good. Thumbs up, okay. All right, so becoming a bitter pessimist. Okay, so I'm seeing what I'm here, and so many of it is just trying to controlling the situation. And I've learned that over now that I'm almost pushing 40, which is hard to believe, it's controlling. There's only one thing that you can really control, is how you respond, or how I respond to a specific situation. And if I've tried to overly control anything outside of me, it just doesn't work out, as this year is a big highlight of that. And one thing I found is this idea of responding versus reacting to anything that comes up. And let me know if for some reason, The video is very choppy for me. But let me know if you have any issues. Just type it in the chat window. This way I can adjust, and I'll make some adjustments along the way here. But anyways, if you had to pick one thing that you'd like to really work on, what would be the one thing that to be better at, if you had to pick something? So go ahead and once again type that into the chat window. Is it better now? All right, good. So this is a perfect example. My circumstances of having a stable connection just went out the window, and then what I did, what I did is just took a deep breath and said, you know what, let's do a quick reset here, and let's figure this out again. So thank you for your patience, everybody. All right. So what I was really asking is that really circumstances we can't control them, but we have the ability to respond to those circumstances in a way that in a conscious way. And that's the whole idea of reacting to life versus responding to life. And one of the ways I found that helpful, and this is what this session is about, and my promise to you is to have a few ways, simple ways in which you can catch yourself in the moment when you're having that meltdown, when you're having that complete emotional overwhelm with the circumstances around you. And how do you manage to move forward and move in a way that is of your choosing, rather than is, you're at the whim, or you're at the mercy of your own I guess you're at the mercy of those strong emotions that just don't allow you to show up in the fullest way. And so thank you for sharing in the chat all the things that you're looking to do: reducing stress to manage it, staying motivated, letting go, and being in the present. And so yes, the breath that we'll look at today is really the one, if you look at it, the one thing that helps you connect from the outside world and the inside world. there's very few things that make that connection for you. And the breath is something that is happening every single moment, every single day. And that's one of the keys that the yogis have found when they looked at uh, how can I manage my internal state. And one of the first things that they found is doing it through your own breathing practice and regulating, having, if you can control and manage your breath, you can manage your body, you can manage your emotions, you can manage a lot of different things just through that process. And so today I want to share a couple things. The first is catching yourself. And you can put I know there's a green check or a green check mark. You see in the participant window. Put a green check mark if you have found that you react to things more than respond to things. Okay, so Asta, Krishna, Mihir, Rutu, Ami. All right. I haven't seen the whole list as I'm going down here, but Maya and Kush. Okay. So yeah, it's the common way. I mean, I do it as well. In the moment, sometimes I just react to things and saying, you know, I have two young kids, a 6 and a 4-year-old, and not to say that they're bad people, but sometimes they do things that make me react in a way that I'm not happy about afterwards. And I'm like, you know what? How do I catch myself the next time and respond to something like this and notice the patterns? So the first thing is, yeah, so was there a question from Neelam? Somebody, you had wrote my name, so just wanted to make sure if it's not a question. By the way, you can post a question, just raise your hand if you, raise your hand in the participant window if you have a question at any given point. So I guess that wasn't a question from Neelam. Anyhow, there are things that you can do. First thing is just the idea of self-awareness, of recognizing, okay, I have this habit, I have this pattern, I have this thing in how I respond to this. There could be one person, it could be, you know, for example, like in my case, we have, it could be your own family, it could be your work situation, it could be your school situation, but there's always this one thing or this one person or this one element that will come up in our life and we react to it. We just can't find a way to respond to it. And I've found that when you take a moment to just look at, why am I reacting to this person or this situation or this circumstance in this way? And just ask yourself the question, what do I believe is true in this situation? Let's say, for example, my son just is causing a ruckus and I get angry, I get upset. Or somebody that I see on the road cuts me off and I get upset or angry. And in that moment, yes, that expression of it is what happens. You express a emotion, you express the anger, you express some sort of frustration or feeling. But then to recognize is that, why is that happening? Why do I need to respond to this person in this way? And you start to realize that there's patterns that come up. For me, one of the biggest things that I've discovered is this idea of powerlessness. Like, I don't feel in control. I don't feel that I'm fully in my power when I have this outside influence triggering me. And so in that moment, I say to myself, okay, so here it is again. I'm feeling powerless. I'm feeling that somebody's taken advantage of me, or I'm feeling, you know, that I'm not good enough, or I'm feeling that there's a lot of different flavors of this whole thing of how you feel in these certain circumstances. And the first thing is just to develop that practice of self-awareness, of recognizing what is triggering me and why is it triggering me. And once you recognize that, that's where the breath comes in and can be helpful to reset yourself so that you respond to a situation. And it may not take the first try. You might, as I've been learning about life and how it works, usually people don't get things right on the first try. It takes iterations. It takes learning from your mistakes, learning from the things that you aren't working, and you readjust. And so over the practice of, let's say you do the fifth time, you finally recognize, all right, wait, this is happening again. I'm reacting. I'm getting angry. I'm getting annoyed. This person is really triggering me. My emotions are out of control. So by the fifth time, you recognize, all right, I see what's happening. And then you ask yourself, so why is this happening? Well, because I feel like I don't have good control over my son. I feel like I'm a bad parent. I feel like I'm failed. I feel like other people will judge me. So all these things start coming up as my responses to my son Priyam just being himself, just being a kid, just being, a lovable 6-year-old. But in my mind, I'm having all these things against myself. And so the key here, and this is the first step in the process, is recognizing what's your common theme from when these triggers, when these circumstances are not going your way. And with COVID and this whole year of 2020, it's fully surrendering. Literally, it's just surrendering that I really don't have control over what's outside of me. But what I do have control over is how I respond to the things that I don't have control over. And so when you start to just recognize, and one of the words in the theme today is accept. It is just start to accept that there are things outside of you that you have no control over. And once you start accepting that fact, it becomes easier to just say, all right, what do I have control over? Is how I respond, how I react in a conscious way. So response to me means reacting in a conscious way, in a way that is true to who I am versus, just being a mess in responding. And no judgment here in saying that that's not the way to do it. There's no right or wrong. All I'm saying is that it becomes a practice to really keep yourself grounded. You can almost consider it being in the eye of a storm, right? When you have this hurricane that recently passed by the East Coast, I think it was like a week or two ago. In the middle of that storm, everything is calm and quiet and collected, but everything outside of it is just a complete chaos. And that's the way of finding any situation. And the way I found that the way the world works is that once you master a particular circumstance, then you get dealt with even more challenging circumstances because the world sees that, hey, you're ready for this. So let's step up your game a little bit and continue to help level up in dealing with circumstances. And then after a while, it becomes a practice that, oh man, I flipped again and I didn't respond the way that I wanted to respond. So the idea here is, first, accept where you are, recognize what's coming up for you in those moments. And this is after the fact. I'm not saying that you have to figure it out in that moment and say, oh, hold on, give me 1 second, give me just 5 minutes. I'm going to figure out why I got triggered by you, and I'm going to get back to you. That's not what I'm saying, but you can definitely take those 5 minutes. But this is more as you go through this. Just recognize the patterns. That's the first thing. And once you do that, the next piece is, how do you access from within a response that is in alignment with who you are? You can respond in a variety of ways. I can respond by physical violence. I can respond by verbal abuse. I can respond by not doing anything. I can respond by a variety of different ways. But let me know if in the chat window, how easy is it for you? And you can kind of put it on a scale of 1 to 10. How easy is it for you to recognize why certain emotions come up for you? Or are you able to bring that self-awareness? So from a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the, hey, I got this down pat, or 1 is like, hey, I got no clue why my emotions are happening or what's going on internally. So go ahead and type in the chat window from 1 to 10. How good are you? Or I wouldn't say good or bad, but how do you rank yourself? Okay, so most of you so far, 7 and 8s, there's a 5, there's a 6. So fairly good at recognizing, and that's great. I would expect that from a group like this, that there's a good level of self-awareness already, of just recognizing why things are coming up for you. And then again, from 1 to 10, how good do you feel, or where would you rank yourself in how you are able to respond to circumstances? All right, so Dhruv, 4. So it's a little bit, I see the lower numbers a bit now. Niyati, don't lose hope with the 3. There's still some hope left. All right. Okay, good. So that's the practice, is to, you've gotten the first step. I feel like you're getting there, and that's a daily practice. So now there's a couple of breathing practices that I find that really help me to, first, either relaxing the body and the nerves, and then also relaxing the mind. And the first one is a body level. So when I teach, when I go to corporations and I talk about speaking in front of an audience or being a presenter, often nerves come up, and saying, people, they talk about public speaking, right? The idea of a big fear in people's lives. So one of the things that I ask is finding a way to just calm down your physical body, your nerves, and just letting that settle. So the one way to do that is just take a breath in through your nose, and then exhaling out, draw that out for double the count that you had took a breath in. So if you took a breath in, if you count, maybe there's a count of 3 or 4 that you breathe in, see if you can breathe out your mouth for the count of 6, 7, or 8. So double that. All right. So just give it a try. Let's take just a minute or 2 to get familiar with this practice. And you might be familiar already, but that's okay. But this is a good way to just calm down the nerves. All right. And maybe you can even test it out. Maybe if you want to challenge yourself, think of the most annoying person in your life right now. And, think of the last thing that they triggered you on. And so then you can say, all right, I have this in mind. You might have that little body emotion come up for you. And now go ahead and just try that breathing practice to kind of help you give a good reset. All right, so breathe, and I'll lead you through the first 3 rounds. So take a breath in, we'll count to 3. 1, 2, 3, and then breathe out to 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So breathing into the nose, 2, 3, and then breathe out to the mouth, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time, breathing in to the nose, and breathing out to the mouth. All right. So now pick in the chat window one word that describes the feeling where you have now. And it, we only did 3 rounds of it, but do you feel more relaxed? And if yes or no, you can be honest. You can say that didn't work for me, or that did, and yes or no, it's fine. There's no grade here that if it worked for you or not, but just recognize that's on a body level, on a emotional, on a body and physical nervous level, that really helps to calm down the body. And so I would recommend that if you're finding, especially situations where you're on edge, your body is physically feeling something, is to go with that breathing practice of the count of 1 in and double that out. Okay? All right, good. And even if it helped a little bit, that's fine. If you feel a little bit calmer, that's great. The breath is going to help once you get more familiar with that. And I'm seeing that, how am I on time? We go to 9:10. We're almost on time.
I think you probably have you can have 5 more minutes, I think, Mitesh, right?
All right, I'll be quick with this. And then the next piece, so thank you, Mihir, appreciate that. The next piece is, how do you relax the mind? You feel relaxed in your body, but there's a practice, and this is also written in there's a little book from Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya. It talks about the Sohum breathing. And whether you're familiar with this or not, it's always good to remind yourself of this. And it's very simple. When you breathe in and you breathe out, listen for that sound of so, the natural sound. When you breathe in, you'll hear a sound. And it almost sounds like the sound of so. And when you exhale out through the nose again, it has a similar sound of hum. So you breathe in, you hear the word so mentally, and as you breathe out, you hear the sound of hum. So give that a try for about 30 seconds or about a minute. I'll lead you through that, all right? So let's take a moment to reset. Now breathe in and listen to the sound of so, and exhale and listen to the sound of hum. Breathing in, listen to the sound of so, and exhale, listen to the sound of hum. And now take the next 3 or 4 rounds on your own. All right, one more round. And complete. Okay. So that's the idea, is 3-step process. The first is recognizing what's triggering you, which many of you have that practice of self-awareness already. Secondly is to then decide, is this a body level thing that's happening, emotional thing that's going on, or is it a mental thing? Am I feeling anxiety? Am I feeling stressed because of my overthinking. And that's where you can use either one of the breathing. I mean, both can be helpful, but one is more targeted towards the body level, and the second one, the Sohum, is more targeted towards calming the mind, relaxing the overthinking, or the maybe even that depressing thought, or those feelings of those thoughts of like, hey, I'm a failure, I'm not doing well, whatever those feelings, those thoughts come up, they all come up for everybody. And so you can decide where to go with that. So I want to leave you with that, with responding versus reacting, and then either the breath of relaxing the body, or the Soham breath to relax the mind. And I think that's just a simple tool where you can really empower yourself, and you'll start to see that you'll make better, more conscious decisions on how to react or respond in a conscious way to the circumstances, especially with everything that's going on here. So I want to leave just another minute or two for any question or thought that you might have. And if you have something, just either raise your hand with the blue raise hand, or type it in the chat window, either way.
Mitesh bhai.
All right. Yes.
I think
I hear a voice. Just say your name so that I have you.
Dhruv.
I don't see you pop up on the screen. All right. Hey, Dhruv. Okay. There you go. Go ahead.
I think when you mentioned the fact that certain situations may cause, feelings to be distressed in a sense, and being aware of what's going on might be the first step to changing the way you react. But many times, it's human nature to react, even if if you're aware, it's human nature to react to things that aren't in your control or are in your control. So, biggest example would be, I mean, for this age group, could possibly be trying to establish a communication between yourselves and parents, or yourselves and family members. And that possibility of, taking deep breaths or analyzing situations might be an option at times. I don't know if you can shed some light on that quickly, or give some type of comment.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And so you're saying that there are people that you have to live with on a day-to-day basis that just don't. Sometimes you're like, I'm better off without them.
In the nicest way possible.
Yeah. And so those are individuals. I always look at it as, it's never the person that is doing something to me. It's always, every situation, I always look at it as something that's neutral. If somebody reacts to me and says something or does something, I always look at it and saying that, okay, this person is working through some sort of emotion, some sort of conflict within themselves. And for me, is to recognize that if it triggers me, then there's something that I haven't resolved within myself. Like, I can look at everything that's happening out in the world right now, and I can choose to find neutrality in it, that it's actually working out for everybody, in that it's bringing up all this pent up energy and emotions that we just never had an opportunity to express. And now the circumstances are causing it so that all that's coming out, and it's allowing us to release that. So I can look at it in that way, or I can look at it, this is a complete disaster in the way that the world is happening right now. So to get to the bottom line of the question here, is that look at the person, not at what they're doing, but why is it triggering you? And once you come to terms with that, then they no longer have power over you. Nothing no situation can have power over you once you recognize that what the trigger point is and what you haven't come to terms with internally. So for example, I'll just give you a quick example. I know I'm over time, so I appreciate that. But, for example, if my son decides to do something that is, I feel embarrassed about, and then I ask myself, why am I feeling embarrassed? Why, what did he do? He's just being a kid. He's expressing himself in his fullest. He's not thinking about whether this is a right or wrong. He's just expressing himself. And so then I look at it and say, well, I'm embarrassed because I feel like I'll be judged as a parent. Or I feel like I'll be judged as a son. Or I'll feel judged as that people will look at me and saying, what type of kid have you raised, or what type of situation have you put yourself in? And so once I resolve that, now I'm like, all right, I love the guy. Yesterday we went out. I went out with my son to do grocery shopping, and it was the most wonderful experience. Like me and him were singing in the car. Me and him were just, he was going out. I was like, hey, go find this, and he goes to like, I found it in aisle 3, and I went here and there. So we made a little game out of it, and it was just so much fun to be with him. And other people in the store might be looking at, who's this 6-year-old running around the store by himself, without his parent being next to him, and kind of going from here to there and there and there and there and there, and kind of, you'd think this kid is like lost or crazy. But in my mind, it's completely normal. I see him for who he is. And a long answer to a short question, but I'll boil it down saying, just look at what that other person is doing, and recognize that they're having their reaction. You're having your reaction because what they're doing is triggering you in some way. And as a result, once you get over that trigger, you'll find that you'll be more neutral with those folks, and they'll change too. So when you start seeing a person, so this is a story that I've heard, is that any saint that you see. Let's pick Gurudev, for example. He chose to work with a person who had leprosy, when he was a kid, or like at a young age, in his teens. And he didn't see that person for what's wrong with that person, but he saw that person for what's right, and where they're coming from, and with compassion. And then he was able to, even with, his parents got upset, and he was like, why are you going to this person's house? And, don't you realize that you'll get sick, or you'll get, some effect on you? And he just recognized that I can be neutral here, and lower it. So I'll leave you with that. I don't want to take up anybody else's time. So appreciate all of you. And I'll still be here. If you want a private chat, I'll be here for the next about 10-15 minutes. So if there's any questions that come up, I'll take them privately. So that's fine.
No, thank you so much, Mitesh. I think everyone would agree that was quite helpful, and very interactive. So thank you so much. You're welcome to stay for the next session as well. And like he mentioned, people can reach out to him privately also. And if need be, we can set up something else like this in the near future, whenever convenient for everyone. So thank you once again, Mitesh.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.